welcome to Optimal, the podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Dicken Weatherby, and this podcast and my website all focus on one thing, and that's the quest for optimal health. Our goal is to help you, to help your patients achieve optimal health so they can experience an optimal life. If you've enjoyed this podcast, please subscribe. We're on Apple Podcasts, Google, and Spotify. And also make sure to go over to optimaldx.com and check out our resources on the site. Now, without any further delay, is today's episode. Hello and welcome. Dr. Dicken Weatherby here from Optimal DX. Welcome to Optimal, the podcast. In today's episode, we are going to be doing an interview with Chris Edwards from TriCore Wellness. Chris specializes in business strategy and development, app services integration, processes optimizations, and program development. He is a fitness and wellness professional with over 18 years of experience. So really happy to be talking to him and really kind of diving into TriCore's three main areas of focus. And that is, how do we combine technology, health data, combining that together with professional coaching to create extraordinary health and wellness outcomes for patients and clients. So we'll be diving into that topic with Chris. And then right after that, Beth Ellen and I dive into a very interesting article talking about health coaching, evidence-based study that they did showing that having health coaching available to you in your clinics and practices has a tremendous impact on health outcomes. So happy to have you with us for the presentation. Let's get to it. So I am delighted to have our guest on Optimal Podcast today, Chris Edwards from TriCore Wellness. Chris is a fitness and wellness professional with over 18 years of experience specializing in personal fitness and wellness management. He holds multiple certifications and achievements in the fitness and wellness industry. Accomplished competitive powerlifter. Chris, I was very impressed with your lift there of 1,607 pounds of raw pro total. So maybe we could talk a little bit about what that was like. But also, you are the managing director of TriCore Wellness. You specialize in business strategies and development. You work closely with clients. You've done blood chemistry analysis. You're really about balancing through your TriCore Wellness concepts. So super happy to have you on the call today. Where obviously Beth and I are here to talk with you around all of that good stuff. So maybe you can tell us a little more about yourself, maybe expand a little more on what I just introduced. And really, I'm kind of curious about your own personal journey, because one of the things that we want to do here on Optimal is showcase practitioners and talk about their own personal journey. What took you to where you are now and the experiences that you've had, and just share a little bit about that with us. So welcome, Chris.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Weatherby. Thank you, Beth. I appreciate the opportunity to be here. And yes, I've had quite the journey and quite the story. And I do come from the fitness and wellness world, whereas I know a lot of your guests and majority of the people that you work with are medical practitioners. So our journey in this world in clinical nutrition is a little different. What we are at TriCore Wellness is we are a hybrid wellness management company. What does that mean? We really develop in-person and online experience. We marry that using online tools and app-based platforms to deliver comprehensive wellness programs to our clients. And now, as we've evolved as a company, we are now specializing in using our hybrid wellness model and helping professional coaches use this model to scale and support their clients in expanded wellness services, and obviously helping them generate more substantial and longer lasting careers. On the other side, we're also now doing this with businesses including fitness businesses, country clubs, medical offices is one of them, as well as many other types of fitness and wellness and health oriented businesses that want to implement a hybrid wellness health coaching model. So really, the evolution of TriCore essentially started with me as a frustrated personal trainer. I wanted to help more people. I wanted to make more money. And ultimately, I was frustrated. And if we go into a timeline here, I want to say it was probably about 2010, 2011. And I had done really well in fitness and wellness. I booked out my entire book of business Monday through Sunday, pretty much. Some days taking on 10, 12 clients a day. Down here in Naples, Florida is where our headquarters is for TriCore Wellness. I was working with clientele in the private club industry, athletes, working professionals, senior citizens. So really a wide variety of clientele. And for me, as a passionate professional, ultimately I got my business degree in college and then stepped into personal training in the fitness field. I was frustrated because I was only giving them one dimension of health and wellness, which was in-person fitness services. And as we all know, there was so much more to it for people to see results. It was nutrition. It was come to learn as I developed my career, clinical nutrition, blood testing. It was mental wellness. It was physical therapy. It was recovery therapy. It was so much more than what I was currently doing. And I was fed up and I wanted to solve this problem, particularly for professionals and businesses in my industry, fitness and wellness. So ultimately, I started out as a consulting company from the very beginning, Edwards Fitness and Wellness, right? And in Florida at the time, since we're in Florida, I quickly found out that I couldn't necessarily do at the time nutrition coaching because of the state laws where it restricted fitness and wellness professionals from performing nutrition coaching and nutrition consultation services. So I quickly had to adjust my beginning stages of the business to be more habit and lifestyle management coaching rather than nutrition coaching. And it kind of sidetracked me a little bit, but I kept focused, right? Because ultimately it was all about helping as many people as possible and expanding myself and my career for developing for my family. And as I grew, we incorporated the company TriCore Wellness in 2014. TriCore, the word itself meaning fitness, nutrition, and recovery, the three core elements of wellness. And with the tagline performance-based wellness, I wanted to really focus on not the vanity component of health, which, everyone thinks, oh, weight loss and that. No, I mean, performance in health, performance in mindset, performance in internal performance, external performance, and really promoting that wellness is a performance-based metric, right? And how this applied to all the different populations that I was serving. So as we grew and as I ran into more and more challenges, I started building programs and really honing in on the business and the brand and bringing in these different habit programs and stuff. I ultimately started talking to some of my clients and said, look, I need to find a clinical nutrition specialist, a registered dietitian. I need to find somebody that could help me develop a piece of this business that would take me to the next level. At the time, again, allow me to stay in compliance with the Florida state laws and also provided an expanded value add so I could differentiate myself as a business and as a fitness and wellness professional where I could show people, hey, what you're doing and your other lifestyle habits are actually a detriment to your internal health and your blood chemistry. And through some networking, I actually met Beth Ellen.
A neighbor. Yeah, a neighbor. My neighbor.
Yep. Hi, neighbor. Yep.
Serendipitous. My neighbor.
I know. And ultimately, Beth and I clicked right away. She's obviously an expert in clinical nutrition and blood chemistry and as an expert in fitness and wellness. And I was telling her how I'm growing this business and where we're going and what I'm looking to achieve. She was like, awesome, let's do it. Let's develop the program. And from the get-go, Dr. Weatherby, she said, you got to get this software. And Beth showed it to me and I was like, this is literally exactly what I'm looking for. And as I started building more program components to TriCore Wellness and we were providing in-person fitness services and now nutrition consulting and nutrition coaching and now staying in compliant with the state at the time, it was really providing a differentiator for me as a fitness and wellness professional to really show people, look, here is why I'm telling you to eat this way and do these habits and drink this much water and do this stuff outside of the initial one-on-one fitness session that I was providing. And it was a catalyst, right? And it was a catalyst for change. And it was a catalyst that showed them, here's what's really going on. And as many of us may know, in my industry, it was something that their doctors were not doing. And they were not addressing these clinical nutrition components, and particularly for in the fitness and wellness world, micronutrient deficiencies, inflammation, blood sugar management, hormone management. Those are the key items. And here I was as a fitness and wellness professional, expanding my business and holding up the mirror to many people and saying, look, you are not in balance. This is why you are not seeing results. This is why you're having all these health issues. And it was a huge catalyst of change. I'll kind of pause there in my journey so I can stop talking and take a sip of water. But yeah, do you guys have any questions on that first part of my journey and evolution so far?
Well, there's an interesting graphic on your website, actually, where you have the 3 interconnecting circles, where you talk about technology, health data, and professional coaching. I find that fascinating way of looking at it because obviously Optimal DX, the work that Beth Ellen and I do, is around gathering health data from lab testing at this particular point, blood testing, and providing a window into trend analysis, risk analysis, and things like that. But also there's a whole myriad of other systems out there as you talk about just body composition stats. And I know in the fitness industry, you're looking at wearables and things like that. So that's just one of those 2 interconnecting circles, the technology and the health data. And then you've put a third one in there, which is the professional coaching. And I'm curious a little bit about your clientele, because my first impression as someone that's working in the personal training world, and I know that you're doing more than just that, is that these are people that are ambulatory. They're on the higher spectrum of potential health. And so I'm curious what type of clients you work with. Are you working with the obese patients, the obese clients, people that are really suffering from a lot of those issues that you were talking about, blood sugar dysregulation, or are you working more with people that are trying to like tweak their performance so that they can do a triathlon or coach or shave minutes off of their whatevers or lift 1,607 pounds? So I'm just kind of curious who your clients are and what you imagine how you would work with different types of people in their health journeys.
That is a great question. It also explains the next part of my evolution as a business owner and as a professional too. So it kind of segues exactly into my story, believe it or not.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, no, it's the natural evolution of how we've grown. So my particular style of coaching is, I would say, very transparent, direct, upfront, and performance focused. So what does that mean? That means that I'm going to resonate with my coaching style using, like you said, technology, their health data, and my professional coaching strategies. And I'm going to resonate very well with a certain type of client, right? And this person. And what that was for me was executives, high performers, and pro athletes. So I got a lot of C levels. I got a lot of NFL pros, MLB guys, college level athletes. I had a lot of working professionals that were also growing businesses and needed to have very strong cognitive function, and they needed to look good because they were doing a lot of presentations and networking. So if you wanted to classify my coaching style and my client type, it was the high performer. And obviously with the combination of technology, health data, and coaching strategies that I had and how TriCore was marketing at the time, those were the people that were coming to us. But it's not to say, though, at the same time, we didn't have at-risk health clients. We didn't have teenagers. We didn't have senior citizens coming in, too. And ultimately, why this kind of demonstrates the second evolution of TriCore is that I wanted to help all of those people, too. So in this next phase, as we grew, it was us bringing in that technology component. And the technology component for us was an app-based platform that allowed us to connect to people's health devices, their body composition scales, their blood pressure cuff, their sleep mats, and then also coupled with the clinical nutrition program that we had to do full analysis on their blood chemistry, we were really able to drive data-driven results with the coaching strategies that I had and the programs I had developed for people. And at this time, too, I had other professional fitness coaches, dietitians, nutritionists, and I'll tell you more evolution of that as we go. But they were saying, hey, I want to use your system. You're really driving results. And ultimately, for me as a business owner, I had developed some great money generating programs and memberships and things of that nature that allowed professionals in my industry, particularly fitness and wellness, to step into a membership model. But also have pay for service compensation structure, session-based structures as well. So it was attractive to a lot of coaches. So boom, we started building. And so I got a coach that specialized in senior fitness. I got a coach that was in women's health and postpartum health. I had a coach that was working with college-age young men. And we started building this team of coaches using the TriCore system that was able to do exactly that and apply to those types of other types of clientele. And so that's really the second component of how we've grown as TriCore. And during that time too, and this is how a business owner thinks and how even our coaches thought too, is, okay, how do we do more? How do we help more people? And this time of our timeline was probably about 2018 when we were using the software platform we were using for driving coaching services. And the CEO of the coaching platform, it was originally a fitness coaching platform, said, hey, what are you doing with my platform? Because I was really driving the connected health devices piece. I was driving habits. I was driving nutrition coaching. I was using it for picture messaging on taking pictures of people's foods because their blood chem looked a certain way and we had to manage their blood sugar better. You know what I mean? All of these pieces of my business was clicking and working together. So the guy said, hey, can you do this for my entire company, for my software company? And we have 100 people all over the world, from Europe to Canada to US to Mexico to all over. And I was like, yes, let's do it. And now, if you want to call it a client type or a niche market, is now we're working with businesses in the corporate wellness sector. And we're driving home blood chemistry education. We're driving home health data. We're driving home nutrition and habits and fitness programming and the whole 9 yards. And we're doing it in a holistic way to people all over the world. And it was amazing. And we started doing it with companies here in Naples. I think it was in 2018, 19. Beth and I, she actually helped me coordinate an entire blood draw for a company in Bonita Springs, Florida, where we did micronutrient testing for all 60 of their employees. And then Beth and I got online and did a whole presentation about the importance of micronutrient deficiencies and why we need to correct them for health, cognitive performance, and work productivity. And that's some of the stuff we were doing at that time as we started launching and developing corporate wellness programs. So as we grew, and again, to address your question of different clientele types, we found that the process I developed at TriCore, this hybrid wellness process, worked well for physical therapists. So we started hiring physical therapists and having them design programs, but also coupled with blood testing and other components to speed the healing process. And Beth and I did a lot of program development on a surgical sports injury recovery program that we're still running with orthopedic surgeons today. And now looking at everything and using the optimal software too for identifying how can we speed the healing process of people using the program and the business I developed and the software at the same time. So that kind of gets us up pretty close to 2020 and COVID. Again, I'll stop there and hear your thoughts on how we now use this to apply to different types of clients and stuff.
Well, thanks for sharing all of that. I mean, it's a wonderful journey. And I think that you're touching in on so many interesting areas that we could kind of dive down. Given that our audience is, I think it's mostly healthcare practitioners. I don't know, maybe not. I'm just curious. Everything you're talking about makes total sense. Let's say I'm a solo practitioner in Arizona. I recognize that the need for paying attention, obviously, to the physical body, the way that you do, and also the nutrition. What are some tips or things that you've picked up on your journey that they could apply into their practices to see a shift and a change, presuming that maybe they're already doing blood testing? I'm just kind of curious, always this sort of pay it forward type of concept of what are some of the nuggets of that you could potentially share with an audience that could make a difference in their lives, in a patient's life? Sorry to put you on the spot there, but kind of bringing it back to kind of who the audience
Taking
is.
notes.
Yeah, great question. And I'm not going to lie, the question kind of sets us up for the next kind of evolution and phase of TriCore. I'm not going to lie.
This is not a setup. I actually just came
No, this is not a setup. This is hilarious because, I mean, ultimately, the thought processes and the questions you're asking are the same questions I had to ask myself and how I was able to help more people, right?
Yeah.
And ultimately, okay, here we go. 2020 hits and everything shuts down, right? And there's all this health crisis and everything's going on. And it's scary for a lot of people. And it's particularly scary for a lot of healthcare practitioners and how they manage their patients. And now we're running into how do they drive accountability and how do they drive coaching and how do they keep people healthy in this now hybrid remote setting, right?
Mm-hmm.
And what we had was this, is I had businesses now coming to me and saying, hey, how do I do what you're doing, right? How do I combine the technology, the health data, the blood testing, the professional coaching? How do I combine those components and deliver that to my patients? I had other fitness businesses, physical therapists, chiropractors. I had all kinds of fitness, medical, health professionals saying, holy crap, I got to adapt to this changing environment. I need to get online. I need to develop and scale and provide hybrid services to my clients and my patients. How do I do it? And because we were players in it and had adopted technology in this whole model since 2016, they started coming to us. And this is really what stemmed the business solutions side of my company. And don't get me wrong, started out as a frustrated personal trainer. I wanted to help more people and make more money. Okay. Then I was like, okay, I can bring this and scale this business so I can bring on more coaches and we can help hundreds, if not thousands of people. Well, now if I take this process and I figure out how to white label it, I can take this process and apply this to an established medical practice, to a physical therapist office, to a fitness studio, to a health club chain, and I can have them use my hybrid wellness program, white label it to their business model. And then also because we have the wellness staff, we can essentially staff those people with trained professionals that know what they're doing with all the software's team, tools, and technology that we have, and essentially onboard an entire health coaching process. So to answer your question is this, as a recommendation to healthcare practitioners is ultimately provide more value in a scalable fashion to your patients, clients, and members. And by doing that, what are the things that we need to do as people that like to help others and as service professionals, essentially, is to provide accountability coaching. That is the driver that is behind why we implement a app-based membership model. It's the driver behind why we use your software, but then also say, okay, to get this back into functional range, you need to drink more water, sleep more, work out, take these supplements. And if you don't have that accountability component to your business, you're only giving your patient or your client a small piece of what they really need to actually have results. And ultimately, the accountability and coaching component is 100% what I would recommend. I'm not just saying that because I provide this for businesses now. Like it's obviously a great segue into what we do, but ultimately it's true. And that is the missing piece in a lot of medical professionals' business models is that they don't have that coaching and accountability and relationship component. And as we kind of entered in on the other side of COVID now, 2021, this is when I developed the mental wellness program at TriCore. And we saw the shift. We saw what it did to our children. We saw what it did to a lot of people, the working professionals, and how people really started having mental health and mental wellness challenges post-COVID was we brought this component in. And ultimately, what it was is that we had to help people shift their mindset and how they are viewing things and how their perspective looks. And a lot of it can come down to how they manage their time, how they manage their schedule, how they manage their bodies, how they manage their health. And so now we have this initiative in also providing our coaches in our business accounts this mental wellness component that is a huge component to optimizing blood chemistry. Beth has been preaching this for years to everybody. Breathing techniques, meditation, yoga, managing your stress response and your stress hormones, which obviously we can show people how out of balance they are using the optimal software. And having a positive mental outlook and a positive mindset is huge for improving someone's internal health. So part of that, though, comes from coaching, mental wellness coaching. Because we're a wellness business, we do not do therapy and counseling, and we have an assessment tool that qualifies people to stay in the mindset coaching realm rather than therapy and counseling. And that's kind of how we have to do things. But if we identify somebody that does need therapy and counseling, we obviously have to refer out. But again, if they fall into that coaching spectrum, we can address it and we can help people with their anxiety and other mindset, perspective, coaching components. But long story short, as a recommendation for healthcare practitioners, and it's again, like you mentioned, one of my 3 components on my Venn diagram is coaching, professional coaching, driving accountability, and holding people accountable to what their blood testing results actually show.
And have you built up a network of coaches who've been trained by you?
We have, and we're growing even further. We have, I want to say, about 28 people total on staff. 12 of those 28 are professionally trained fitness and wellness coaches, multi-certified, many of them 10, 20 years experience. And these coaches recognize the fact that holistic wellness, and to scale and to help people and to spread communication effectively, a hybrid approach to holistic wellness is how they're going to create the most change and drive the most results and hold the most people accountable. So we've been lucky to be recognized in these, I would even say, early stages of TriCore, because we have some big goals here to really drive results, not only for the coaches' individual clients that they service, but for the business accounts that we service too. We position specific types of coaches on specific accounts we work with because of their niche specialty or by the request of specific an account. Like, for example, with one of the functional medicine clinics we're working with right now, they needed a wellness coaching program. And ultimately what happened was the doctor that we were working with, he was spending a lot of his time just addressing basic wellness and health core needs, like telling his patients to drink water. Like, we've done some recent consultations, and this doctor is dialing in their hormones and their micros. And they're perfect. Obviously, he's very proficient in what he does. But this patient was only drinking 20 ounces of water a day, and they couldn't figure out why the inflammation markers were off the charts. And I'm like, so we just do some coaching and consulting and say, look, you got to drink at least 80 ounces of water a day. You are severely dehydrated. This is why you keep having these issues. And obviously, we have our strategies and our methodologies behind driving that habit change. But that is a huge relief for this doctor, is the coaching component of doing things like that. So he doesn't have to spend time with his patient telling them to drink more water. He can spend time on the important stuff to manage disease or whatever the issue is with the patient. And that has been a huge value for them. And it's honestly saved the doctor a ton of time. I'm sure with a lot of healthcare practitioners, they're so limited on time with their patients. If they can have one less appointment per day because the patient's in a healthier state and they don't have to see them, great. Like, that's what we're looking to achieve, is actually help people. So it's really interesting how it's been able to really create and see this system flourish with so many different types of people.
Oh, so cool. Well, we're kind of coming up to the end of our time together. I have a couple of questions for you. Let's go back to my single practitioner in Arizona. I'm listening to this going, wow, yeah, that totally resonates with me. Can a single practitioner work with you guys and take advantage of what TriCore Wellness is doing, implementing professional coaching, maybe via distance? Is that something that you work with, or do you work mostly with bigger clinics?
We can do single practitioners. We can do bigger clinics. It's scalable. We're able to white label all aspects of our business. We've got a huge team pretty much trained on all aspects of our programs. So, like, for example, if a clinic or an individual healthcare practitioner came to us and said, hey, I want to fill in this gap, and this gap in my practice, cool. We come in, we white label it, make it their brand, fill in those wellness program gaps. He or she keeps operating their business. We fill in the gaps. We streamline into their current operations. And now they've just expanded their services and are now creating more value to their patients. Yes.
Very cool. And now, second question. I'm an individual. I'm listening to this and I'm going, God, that sounds like I'd love to find a professional coach that I could work with. TriCore sounds like a good company to work with. Can I, as an individual, patient, client, contact you and be put into your network?
100%. So we have a team of coaches, and their bios are up on our website. They can individually select and find a coach that they feel like they're a best fit with. If they don't want to do that, they can obviously put in a contact us form. I'll set up an intro call with that individual, and based upon the intro call, essentially assess and say, hey, I think you're going to be a best fit for this coach or this program or whatever it may be. And we can position them with the right professional or professionals to help them achieve their goals.
All right. Final couple of questions here, Chris. What are the 2 practical things that you feel that someone can do right now to improve their health? We'll include drink more water as one of those. So maybe provide two others. And one of the things that we're really interested in is not only what are people that we interview and practitioners and people like yourself, what are you doing with your clients that you feel is moving the needle? But also, what are you personally doing? Because I think, bringing things back to what we as practitioners are doing, a tenet of naturopathic medicine is physician heal thyself. So first part of, if there were two things, if you were in an elevator with someone going up to the 10th floor and you noticed that they needed some help, what are two things that are little bits of wisdom that you could impart to them that you think when they hit the 10th floor, the bell rings, the door opens, that they potentially have an opportunity for a different outcome in their life?
Okay, so outside of hydration, because that's typically my number one, honestly, I got two more. So, and this is ultimately a core component of all of the programs and how we consult businesses, how we consult coaches. And this is obviously I say, in my opinion, the biggest factor in health and performance, blood sugar management. 100% blood sugar management, AKA portion control, AKA calorie management. I mean, it's the science of a calorie. You cannot deny it. It is truth. It is real. And we have essentially changed people's lives by educating them, holding them accountable, and essentially shifting their mindset on how they view food and the value of food. Something as simple as saying 449, right? 4 calories in a gram of a protein, 4 calories in a gram of a carb, 9 calories in a gram of fat. And providing just basic education on calories and food management and helping someone manage their portions and their AKA blood sugar is the secret to health. And I've worked with NFL pro athletes and also senior citizens and executives of major healthcare companies and have changed their lives by doing one thing: balancing and managing their calories. So blood sugar management, 100% calorie management, that's number one. Number two is sleep more. I mean, think about it. Like, if we take it into three things, it's food, water, and sleep. So this is what we do. We promote foundational health and wellness principles. And we use the analogy: you cannot get to the attic unless you lay that cement foundation of the house first, right? You can't do it. If you're not drinking water, you're not sleeping, and you're not eating properly, how can you figure out the micros that you're deficient in if you're not even doing those three things? And ultimately, sleep is recharging, reducing inflammation, healing, growing, releasing the right hormones that we need to heal our bodies and recover our minds. Like, sleep more. Stop with the social media and stop with the electronics right before you go to bed. Like, that's a huge one for us, is digital detox, is stop with the blue light, stop with the stimulation before you go to bed, let your body taper down, get into a deeper state of sleep, heal, grow, recover, and that will do so much. So, if you narrowed me to two, because I could talk all day about this wellness stuff. I love it.
Yeah, fascinating. Kind of the meat and potatoes of what we all do. Yeah.
One question is, Chris, how do we bottle your energy and enthusiasm and add that onto the menu of things you offer?
Oh, man.
Sleep,
how do we
drinking water, managing blood glucose.
Drinking water, sleeping more, working out. Honestly, I'm not going to lie. I found my purpose in life. And obviously people's purposes, they change and they evolve. But my purpose is like, I have been lucky to have Beth help me, build the clinical side of my business. I've been very lucky to be around some very important and influential people that have had like mind of me and want to help as many people as possible and develop and provide careers for the people that love the stuff that we love. Yeah. And my purpose is how can I get this opportunity to speak with you today and be on this podcast? Like, this is amazing. I hope we change other people's mindsets on how they provide service and coach and help and provide health and life to people. Like, this is my God-given purpose, and I am here to help as many people as possible. So this is why I'm so energetic all the time. I found it. Yeah.
Well, I wish we had more time to chat about some of the other things that you do, because music to my ears, all those three things are exactly what I imagine. Beth, I'm sure after a year or two of doing this, we actually surveyed what three things most of our guests talked about. I think it would be probably sleep, but I'd probably be high up there. Water probably would be high up there. And I think what you said about managing blood sugar regulation through healthy food choices, healthy portion control, recognizing what a calorie is. I think a lot of people in our field go, oh, calorie schmallery, we don't need to worry about those. As long as you're eating healthy, it's fine. Well, if you're putting 3,000 calories of healthy quinoa in your body, the body still has to break it down. It still has to, you have to do something with it, even though it's the healthiest thing on the planet. So I think that's really, really important. I just want to say, anyone that's listening here, I think your website is TriCore Wellness. Is that right, Chris? Have I got it right?
Yeah, TriCoreWellness.com. Yes.
Yeah, go check it out. It's a really good-looking website, and I think you can get some insights into some of the stuff that Chris was just talking about. And for our practitioners that might be listening, this idea of providing professional coaching, I think, is huge. You know, when I first got into practice 25 years ago, there wasn't a concept of health coaching. It was sort of seen as being, well, why would I need a health coach? I can do it all myself. Well, we recognize now, especially in a post-COVID world where a lot of us had to go online and had to resource through Zoom and other digital means, having a health coach or having someone who can lift that burden off of you is going to make a huge difference. So I would encourage anybody who's listening to this thinking, God, I'd love to have a professional coach on my team. Check TriCore Wellness out. Give Chris a call. Tell him you heard him on the podcast. Chris, I'd love to have you back again at some other time where we can dive into some of more of the meat and potatoes of just sort of practical things like we were discussing, what you're seeing is working in your field. But as sort of an intro, thanks for coming on. Beth, is there anything else that you want to share? You've known Chris for a long time. Sounds like you guys have done some really amazing stuff together. So maybe you could...
Thank you, Chris. Really, I really mean that. Your energy and enthusiasm they're really infectious. And I think a lot of it is sometimes your personal contact with people where they just get so motivated and so interested and start to think about caring for themselves from the inside out, and this whole perspective that you provide and then you pass on to the coaches that you train. I just say thank you because it's really, really needed. And you're for real. There's a lot out there in the internet universe of the internet. And you're legit, really. And you have solid credentials and you have solid programs and you're going to lead people into optimal health versus just having a program you want to sell to them and leave them flat. So thank you.
Yeah,
that's what I want to say.
Thank you, guys. I appreciate it. And no, it's an honor to be on here. Dr. Weatherby, Beth's been talking about you for a long time, so I'm happy to finally meet you.
Good things, I hope.
No, great things. And honestly, your software and everything you do for this community in fitness, health, medicine, healthcare, I mean, it's amazing. And you're driving people to help more people. You've helped me, you've helped my business, you've helped a lot of my clients worldwide. We're even doing blood testing in Canada now. We've gotten connected with Life Labs up in Canada. So we're doing functional blood chemistry testing in US and Canada now. So it's been amazing. And so thank you guys as well. Beth, thank you. Dr. Weatherby, thank you. Yes.
Yeah, you're welcome. And I thank you for all of the support that you give me on the research side. We wouldn't be pumping out such incredible content around biomarkers and nutrition and all of that stuff without Beth's amazing work. So you're an amazing part of our team. So anyway, Chris, all the best to you. Thank you so much for coming on. TriCoreWellness.com. If anything that you've heard on this podcast today intrigues you, go to the website, fill out the contact us form. You won't be disappointed. You can tell from Chris' enthusiasm and passion for what he does that you and your patients will be well served by a visit to TriCore Wellness. So thanks, Chris. Wow. So first of all, Beth, thanks for getting Chris on the call. That was really cool. I think we kind of got into the meat and potatoes of some of the things that I wanted to talk about from the nutrition perspective. So having him start talking about how nutrition, what role that plays in the work that he's doing, I thought that was really cool. But I am struck with something, though, which is this whole concept of health coaching, because I think that both you and I have probably seen the explosion of health coach programs, moving into health coaching since the COVID epidemic. A lot of practices have had to go online. And so people are more used to interacting with a practitioner or provider over Zoom. I was just talking to my mom. She's unfortunately deals with multiple myeloma. She hasn't seen in physical form her oncologist for 3 years.
Oh, wow.
Well,
wow.
two because of COVID and one because they don't see the patients anymore. It's all done online. It's all done on, are your proteins moving in the right direction? So in some ways, we have removed ourselves from that point of contact.
Yes, it's impersonal. It really is impersonal. Yeah.
Yet, you've got a pretty interesting article here. And again, health coaching doesn't necessarily have to be remote, but I think for a lot of people, it probably is. So I was curious. It sounds like he's building a really robust business, can support businesses, can support individual practitioners, can support individual patients themselves. You just mentioned an article to me in passing around what role does something like a health coach, what role do they play? And is there a way to actually track outcomes? So I think this was an article came out in 2020, August, called The Reduction in Chronic Disease Risk and Burden in a 70 individual cohort through modification of health behaviors. And I think it speaks to the benefits of having someone, and Chris talked about accountability, and I think that's very much part of it. You need somebody, if you're going to make a change in your life, you need someone that you can be accountable to other than yourself or your mother or your wife or your husband or your partner, whoever it would be, or your children. Someone that is almost impartial, that can be that rational voice in some ways and going, you're doing a great job, keep going, or you're doing a good job, here's ways I think you can be better, or I'm going to hate to say it, you're failing. And it's a horrible word to use, right? But so anyway, talk us through this article here, and we'll post it up on the blurb for the podcast. But I think it's timely. I think it's pertinent for what we were just talking about with Chris. So take us away. What are some of the things that you picked up on that and might lend an insight into whether or not a practitioner might want to hire a health coach, or someone might want to get into health coaching, or patient going, wow, that sounds like a really great idea. I'd love to find someone to coach me through the process.
And what good do they do, right? And I think this article proved that they do a lot of good. And I think this intense individualization of a program, and including people's kind of ability and commitment to be accountable, actually went into this study, because they actually assessed that level, because you have to meet someone where they are. You know where you want them to get to, but are they willing to get there? Are they willing to get in the car? Are they willing to take the road there? Are they willing to take directions? So actually assessing their ability and accountability was actually part of this program. But it was really, really interesting because it talked about all the things we're talking about, in that the SAD, the standard American diet, and being sedentary, and all these things that lead to chronic diseases can be reversed. It doesn't have to be a death sentence. And it talks about some of the stats were pretty amazing. It says, according to the CDC, chronic diseases account for 90% of healthcare costs, morbidity, and mortality. And the chronic diseases that, of course, we would address with nutrition and decrease in sedentary lifestyles and improving your own lifestyle with stress management, that chronic disease that they're talking about. So I find that it's reversible. Of course, there are some diseases and cancers and things like that that may not be reversible, but the things that are attributed to poor lifestyle choices are reversible. And I think the study showed that. And when they also showed that there was a physician or doctor that was assigned to each person, and the health coach. And the doctor's time was only 1/10 of the health coach's time spent with the patient. And the more chronic or severe their disease state, the more time they got with the health coach, and therefore with the physician as well. So I thought that was incredible. This stat is of 2014, 60% of U.S. adults, and we're just the U.S. here, had at least one chronic condition, and 42% had more than one chronic condition.
What age groups are we looking at here?
So here they didn't actually say in this quote that I have to say U.S. adults. So I'm going to guess 18 to 80 or 18 to 90.
That's a staggering amount.
Yeah. It was half the United States has some chronic condition. And I'm going to say the majority is going to be preventable or reversible. So the 15 most expensive health conditions account for 44% of total healthcare expenses. So, and these are really non-communicable diseases. So the WHO, the World Health Organization, chimes in, and they reported that in 2010, non-communicable chronic diseases, including cardiovascular disease, diabetes, and here's cancers, chronic respiratory disease, accounted for 2/3 of deaths worldwide. I would pull out cancer in a sense, although it can be preventable, sometimes not always. But if you pull that out, the number would be a little bit lower. But all of these are certainly treatable with nutrition and lifestyle. And that's where the health coaches can come in, because you get someone healthier and they're even less likely to have a severe reaction or experience with things like COVID-19 and pandemic. People in good health suffer mortality rates at 10% the rate compared to those with pre-existing chronic conditions. So yeah, even recovery from a viral illness that could be deadly is so much more favorable when people are healthy. Yeah. And that's the health coach. We're trying to catch you before you have full-blown diabetes, but if you do have it, there are still things that can be done. And again, a good nutritionist, a health coach, someone that's competent and credentialed, because we just talked about that. Well, there are a lot of programs out there for health coaching. Are they legit? Are they good? Do people have credentials? We talked to Chris. He has his credentials. He teaches the health coaches that he trains. They have to have their credentials. So we want to keep people healthy. And if they're not healthy and have a reversible chronic disease, that's what has to be addressed, but addressed pretty intently. They call it a 9-month disease reversal and preventional program. So they depended on, or they counted on having these biomarkers because they track the biomarkers. Their objective was to have these improve. And they did. They greatly improved. And it was because of a personalized, modifiable care plan. It wasn't just a piece of paper handed to the person and say, go adopt these habits without a lot of help, right? It took that interaction with the health coach on hand and then guidance by the physician. They found that 99, this is a 70-person cohort, mind you. So it's a fairly small cohort, but 90% of participants experience a favorable reduction in chronic disease biomarkers. 90%. I mean, that's incredible. So to me, it just shows that this works and the health coaching did make a difference. And they detail in this one article, which is just such a great article. They detail, kind of walk you through what the health coaches did to make sure that someone was ready. And basically, we always talk about inflammation. That was one of the main things they wanted to monitor, the reduction in inflammation. And more movement was used, increased nutrient density of foods, improvement in digestion and absorption, improving gut balance and activity, increasing probiotic and prebiotic foods. This whole list, elimination of high glycemic load, really, better oral health, increased healthy fats and omega-3 fats. They did use supplementation. And I always tell people, I do myself, like if I know I haven't had my omega-3s either for the day or in the last few days, then I'll supplement. Or if I hadn't had it in food, I take a supplement. If I didn't get my greens today, I actually do a green supplement myself.
Right. No, I get it. Yeah. Because we
so
can't
food
always,
first, supplement. Yeah.
We can't always have the time or the effort to give ourselves everything we need. And we're lucky because we do live in a world where we can supplement.
Build of abundance,
What a find. This is just a fascinating article. It just dawned on me. There's a couple of things that flow through my mind. One is how this approach is so different than the standard Western medical approach, right? So I'm feeling unwell. I go see my GP for like 3 minutes. They run a battery of tests. And then ultimately I'm given a piece of paper and I go to a drugstore. And now I'm hooked on my orange bottle of whatever it is that I want to add to the other orange bottles that are in my bathroom shelf. The goal really is like, you're broken. This pill is going to quote unquote fix you, which it doesn't. It doesn't make you healthier. It's not about health. And there is no guidance. There's nobody sitting there saying, well, actually, there's a different way. There's a different way forward. So that's kind of the current model that we have to break. And I think people...
And disease care.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And then the other thing I was thinking about, we just did a quarterly business review of Optimal DX. And I was thinking there are metrics that we follow. And if metrics aren't moving in the directions that we like, we make course corrections, we make changes. But if you look at disease and morbidity, even over the last 5 years, with the amount of money that is spent on advanced diagnostics, new types of diagnostics, new surgical methodologies, new surgical treatments, new drugs, you would think that if we had these categories of these chronic diseases, we're pouring that much money into trying to quote unquote treat these things, that we would see less disease 5 years later. Guess what? We don't. It's broken.
Well, it's working for some aspects of it, which is, hey, we see these diseases treated.
People that are really, really sick. Yeah, of course.
But I mean for the business end of it. No, I mean the business end of it. Really? I mean, that's a business model, boy.
Of course. Yeah, yeah. But it just, It boggles my mind. I was just listening to a podcast with this woman called Vandana Shiva. She's an Indian agricultural expert talking about. Do you know her?
I have heard her, and I've listened to her in the past. Not for a while.
Amazing. Yeah, it was Russell Brand, and whatever you think of Russell Brand, I think he does an interesting podcast. He was interviewing her, and she was just talking about the politicization and the making of agriculture into big business. And within 3 minutes, she just stepped through the whole process of what it was like. And she's talking about rural India in the 1930s and right before the Second World War. And obviously agriculture in the United States and obviously in Europe itself, and where we've gotten to now, and how agriculture and the control of our food supply and the processing of food and the chemicalization of our food is all being done by pharmaceutical companies that are now producing fertilizer. And it's just like this web. And guess who gets to suffer? The human beings who are consuming this stuff. And it's no surprise that we're all the numbers that you just went through around mortality rates and all that kind of stuff. It just, so I'm trying.
The plan is working. No.
Well, the plan is working for somebody, I guess.
And I'm not going to mention Soylent Green and corporate control of the food supply. I'm not going to mention Soylent Green.
Well, we should be mentioning.
And corporate control of the food supply.
We should be mentioning.
And loss of plankton in the ocean. And only rich people could afford food. But we were
because one of the things that I was thinking about when you were going through this, we were talking about treating with nutrition and the roles that health coaches can play in terms of taking these chronic diseases which are not being affected effectively by Western medical allopathic approaches, but with diet, nutrition, lifestyle, exercise, and all of those kind of things. I'm thinking in the back of my mind, it's like, I want to stop people from getting sick in the first place.
Exactly. Nutrition is your best health insurance. Yeah.
Right. So we should be talking about the politicization and the globalization of our food supply, because without you and me talking about it and Russell Brand and Vandana Shiva and other people, it's like we are the voices.
It's awareness, right?
It's very small.
But people will listen. I really do. I think it's awareness. The truth is there. People just have to know enough to look and dig a little bit and be aware of, hey, this is the system. How can we change it? I'm always the one to say, okay, that's how it is because someone made it that way. Why can't we change it?
No, I'm totally with you. If we can use our very small little tiny soapbox to get a voice out there, then all power to us. So
at least we're doing something. I feel like, I have to bring awareness to something.
All right. Well, I think that's going to wrap this episode up.
Okay, it's over.
If you guys have any suggestions of people that you think we might like to talk to, who share some of our beliefs, maybe don't share some of our beliefs. And I think having a robust conversation with people around these issues, I think is something I'm very interested in. And I know it can be a little scary, right? To step out and talk and go up against big pharma and global whatever. But like I said, it starts in the community, right? And we've got a community of people that I hope share similar values. So reach out to us, support@OptimalDX. Just drop us an email. Our customer support team will get the emails to us. Thank you. Thank you for getting Chris. I know you've worked very closely with him, and I appreciate your referrals on that front. We look forward to having more interviews and people to talk about and bringing it and getting it real. So from Beth Ellen and Dr. Dicken Weatherby from Optimal DX, thanks for listening, and we'll see you on another episode.